Welcome to the Black Doctor Collective podcast. We as Black doctors are in a unique position. We can change our communities, healthcare, and the world. Of course, we start by changing the way we see and value ourselves. I'm your host, Dr. Shanika Horn, pediatrician and physician coach, travel extraordinaire. I am so happy to have you here and listening. So let's get into it. Hey y'all. So I had a couple different topics I was thinking about doing this week. One was transitions, it being the beginning of July and everybody's in this moment of flux, this transition, new residents, new med students, new attendings. And I also thought about doing one on confidence because I think confidence is a huge part of what people think they should be when they are in medicine. And considering I coach on negotiation, everybody wants to be this confident negotiator, and decided I'm not doing either of those things. I'm going to talk to you about my current position on things. So I currently work clinically. I coach for my own program and for another program for Dr. Coach School. And the reason I got into entrepreneurship, I like to talk about physician entrepreneurship from time to time, but the reason I got into it was because I wanted to have income that had nothing to do with medicine for a number of reasons. Short list being medicine was not what I expected it to be. I wasn't finding fulfillment there. I felt like I worked so hard to get to this place and nobody appreciated me. It just didn't have the vibe that I thought it was going to have. Let's be real. Like, it was not vibing. People still disrespect you as an attending. People still question you a lot. And there's like respectful questioning. Hey, are you sure you want to do this? Maybe we should consider alternate options. Fine. And then there's the like, but that's not what TikTok said crew. Sometimes you're in this clinical setting where you have worked really hard to get there. You're being dumped on all the time. Everyone expects you to do all the things, pick up all the slack, adjust repeatedly, no matter how crazy the scenario is. And it just does not feel good because the whole premise of working hard that we've learned through our entire lives is that when you've worked hard, you receive a reward. You are rewarded for your efforts. That does not apply in medicine. You could work hard and the outcome can be totally different from what you expect, both in your job and in a patient encounter. 1 + 1 does not always equal 2. So I thought, okay, let me get into entrepreneurship, especially because it was like pandemic, right? It was like everybody was an entrepreneur. Everybody was starting a business, a side hustle, a multi-million-dollar project. We had glamorized entrepreneurship. And there were so many coaching programs, like business coaching programs, life coaching programs. Everyone was hiring coaches to try to figure their stuff out. And as someone who enjoys helping people, enjoys people getting to a result, I like a process, I like a strategy, and I like being in service to others. It felt like a really good fit for me. And it also felt like an extra middle finger to the system in that I was going to help doctors reclaim some of the things I felt we lost, like the autonomy, the salary, the boundaries. There were so many things that I felt we could reclaim. And I was really pumped about teaching doctors that, especially doctors of color, because we're notoriously underpaid. The research says, okay, women doctors, notoriously underpaid. Having a platform that promotes the voices of those who are typically underserved and underpaid and overworked felt amazing. But like I said, entrepreneurship is very glamorized. As someone who is very much a type A personality, who works hard, tries to get things done, sets goals, just charges forward to achieving, I found myself in 2022 doing a lot of work. I started the podcast. I was taking over a Facebook group. I created the Instagram account. I was sending emails. I was building my website from scratch. I taught myself how to build my website. If any of you have been to the blackdoctor.com.org, I bought all of them. I have all of the Black Doctor websites. You should see, like, you would look at it and like, maybe it looks professional. I hope it looks professional, but it was me, just me learning how to use Squarespace and conquering it, right? I was really motivated because medicine had really burned me. And I wanted to say that I had found an alternate route to make money and not rely on medicine and not have to deal with all the crap that I was just talking about, all the disappointments of what medicine turned out to be. Yes, I was on a break. I created all these things. I created a directory of doctors. I was in the Facebook groups. I was running a lot of stuff. It was really picking up the bulk of my week to be doing these things, to putting out so much content, putting out so much of my energy in creating this company. So imagine my chagrin when I make no money, not a dime in 2022. I spent a lot of money. Like I said, I bought a lot of websites. I paid for a lot of things. And then, of course, I was upkeeping all my medical stuff. And we all know that's expensive as heck. So I was paying for licensing and memberships and retreats and courses and continuing education, conferences, all of that. More importantly than the fact that I didn't make any money was the fact that I was running myself into the ground. So leaving medicine because I was burnt out to create a business where I'm burning myself out is crazy. So even in 2023, I would say, where I started to make money in my business, I was taking on clients. I hired a virtual assistant to help me with content. I'm still doing the podcast. They're editing my podcast, thank God. I'm still writing newsletters, and I'm still working clinically because I had to go back to clinical work. I was not rich. Money runs out eventually. But one of the things that slowed me down was that I had been building this business in the way that I had seen businesses run. And businesses in America are not necessarily kind to the employee. And I was an employee in my business, an unpaid employee at that, because I wasn't paying myself from anything coming out of this business. I was just putting in and hoping that my efforts were going to be recognized and that people would come and see the value of the offer and all of these things. And it was exactly a replay of what medicine was for me. And at some point I had to make a very deliberate shift to not build my business this way. And what does life even look like if you're not working super hard to earn a short reward? Because that's essentially how I've grown up. It's how I've been trained in medical school, in residency, in fellowship. It's like you work like a dog, and then you get 2 weeks off at a time. So the thing I was trying to escape, the reason I was purposely not trying to do medicine, was the very thing I was building. As an entrepreneur, I get why people love a job. Last week's episode, I talked about job security and why that's a sham. And it's still a sham, right? Your job can change at any given time. You have zero control over who you work with, and especially if you work for these corporate things. If you don't own your own practice, you're not doing the hiring. You're not making the final decisions. And working for somebody can be ghetto, but so is entrepreneurship. They're both hard for different reasons. Depending on what you're looking for, it's just one version of hard versus another. I get why people love a job. I get why people like to climb a corporate ladder, try to be boss babe, all of these things, because you are following a preset path. You don't have to create nothing. You generally have an idea of what you're going to earn. The steps are laid out, how to get to those paths of promotion. Take that with a grain of salt, right? Because steps are not always laid out. Read your contracts, have more conversations about what's required of you in order to get promoted. But generally speaking, I think that there is a ease to being employed if you have this structure where you can see that there's upward mobility. You can see there's pathways for you to be more and more successful. And you don't have to run anything. You don't have to worry about the back end, the overhead costs, the hiring, the firing. You show up, you do what you do best, hopefully, and then you leave. Of course, in medicine, that's the problem, is that we don't get to do what we do best, which is patient care. We end up doing the admin stuff, the insurance stuff, the pharmacy stuff, the BS, basically. And that's where we have this disconnect. So I figured, okay, let me figure out how to make money outside of medicine. I know I've talked about kind of the downsides to entrepreneurship, but let me tell you how earning money in my own business has been freeing for me. So yes, there's hards and there's also major wins. I am still working clinically, and I'm working in a clinic run by a doctor-run practice. I'm per diem. I'm creating my hours. I ask for the hours I want. I take my vacation as I need to. It's not paid vacation, so I still believe that nobody can tell me when I can take vacation or how much vacation I can take. I think that in regular jobs too, because they offer you paid vacation, but there's no policy saying you can't take unpaid vacation. Just no one ever does. But in this case, I have this flexibility. The clinic can be a little bit of a hot mess. They're still working through the kinks. It's less than 2 years since that doctor has bought out the practice. So of course, there's like turnover with staff and things. There's things that are just not functional, right? Like every work environment, there's something that's dysfunctional. Fine. I do not feel pressure to problem solve outside of my scope. Let me tell you what that means. When things arise, like scheduling the medical assistants or some drama with another attending and the patients, or, this week, they were trying a new vaccines company. They have you scan the vaccines and it's supposed to trigger a reorder when you reach a certain number, critical level. They ain't said nothing. We ran out of vaccines twice already. Things like that, I think in the past would have been really triggering for me. It would have been really time consuming. I would have been in there trying to problem solve, trying to figure out how to make this better, how to improve all of these different scenarios. What's a solution to this? What's the best way this could be handled? But honestly, even in the times where it feels a little bit like this could potentially be a sinking ship, I'm still not feeling compelled to go outside of my scope. And I don't mean this in an uncaring way. I actually think this is really beneficial to patient care and to my longevity in my career. If it's a sinking ship, I'm good. I have a boat. And my boat is my entrepreneurship journey, my private business that I run, that I make income from. If that ship were to sink, the clinical ship, I would be like, damn, that sucks, but I still got a boat. Having that security means that I do not run around trying to fix all of the things over here, because I'm over here in my boat, watching the other boat, but not compelled to patch the holes, to find an oar and start rowing. Now, my brain is saying, oh, that sounds so callous. That sounds, you're not going to help out when they need help, or you're not going to help save a sinking ship. Like, that just seems selfish. Here's why I don't believe that's selfish anymore. When I'm not stressed out, first of all, let's backtrack. The problem somehow gets solved, whether I choose to get involved or not. Someone is going to solve the problem. Especially if it's a problem that is not assigned to my job, someone is going to figure it out. It does not have to be me. Thinking that it has to be me throws off my whole everything, my attitude, it throws off my whole energy, okay? It's also a little bit arrogant to think that I'm the only one who could find a solution to this problem. I'm not. By freeing myself of this responsibility, I have the brain energy to focus on patient care, to think through my plan, to call patients back, to answer messages, because there's so much patient communication that exists in the role now besides the visit, right? The visit's like the tip of the iceberg. I still got to respond in their patient communication portal. I still have to talk to the pharmacy. I still have to. There's so many things, okay? And researching things that I want to do intervention-wise, especially if it's something I'm not familiar with, spending a lot of time thinking about my patients is part of the job. But I can only do that if I'm not trying to put out someone else's fire. The other thing is trying to put out fires everywhere, every day is exhausting. And at some point, we know me, I'll take a break. I will quit. What is the end result that's beneficial to anybody if I'm running around trying to do all the things, wear all the hats? I'm either going to leave or I'm going to miss something in patient care. And both of those have negative patient outcomes. I like that because I have alternate forms of income, and I encourage everyone to have alternate forms of income for money reasons. But one of the reasons is I don't have to feel so sucked in to the clinic drama. Someone's going to figure it out. Get somebody else to do it. I was listening to Lovey Ajayi Jones and Tiffany Aliche. If you don't know who they are, look them up. Amazing authors, both of them, running great programs, both of them Black women entrepreneurs. Lovey focuses on, she's written a couple New York Times bestsellers, and so is Tiffany Aliche. But Tiffany Aliche talks about money, budgeting, money, how to make money, all of that stuff. Okay. They were talking about how they had rough years last year in 2023. These are both successful women. They are multi-six figures in their businesses. And they were saying that one point they made in the episode was that if you are in a job, but you're carrying the load of an entrepreneur while working for someone else, that's not the place for you. And so it made me think about clinic in that so many doctors are operating like they run the practice, like they own the practice. We're out here trying to solve all of the problems. I'm not going to be worried about the schedule. I'm just not. If the patient is late and y'all still want me to see it, I'm going to see the patient. I am not taking on the whole complex of how to schedule patients. I'm not taking on the fact that the vaccines are not here. I'm not taking on that someone agreed to work this shift and this happened and someone called out sick. I'm just not doing it. Because why should I be having the stress of the whole point of working for somebody else is that you don't have the stress of being an entrepreneur. Why would you want to take that on? You cannot make sure all the shifts are covered. That's not your job. If they refuse to hire someone to cover someone else who's on maternity leave or someone who got sick, that's not your job. But if you feel like this is your only way to earn money, this will be really hard to process for your brain because our brains love security. We love safety. And any threat to that safety is going to get prioritized in front of logical thinking, right? So the logical thought is that I'm not the owner of this business. I'm not supposed to be worried about all of these logistical, scheduling, staffing, human resources problems. But if your whole life, all the money you make is anchored to this business, guess what? You're going to jump in there and try to save the ship. If that's the only ship you're on, the only thing that is keeping you alive, you're going to do everything. I think that's one of the lessons that I'm learning is that making money outside of medicine really allows me to flex my boundaries. It's one thing to learn how to have boundaries and say no. If your brain does not feel safe doing that, it's not going to do it. It's really hard to stick to your guns when you're worried that you might lose your job or you might get fired. If you are worried in any way that something you're doing is going to disrupt your ability to survive, let me tell you, survival overrides everything all the time. Always will. I think sticking to your guns, upholding your boundaries is really difficult. I don't think I say that enough because I'm usually trying to encourage people to do the behavior. And I don't think necessarily that you always need help pointing out how difficult it is, but I do think I should acknowledge it because it is a huge component of negotiating, boundary setting, all of these, asking for what you want. There's a discomfort in it. It is hard. It's not that in creating my life, that I no longer have this discomfort. It's not like I always feel confident in everything that I'm asking for. It's not that I always stick to my guns. I don't. I think it's that I, for the most part, pretty consistently, will feel that discomfort and still take action. I will still proceed in the direction of my dreams. I will still stand up for myself. I will still voice what it is that I want. I will still ask all the questions. And I generally try my best to not agree to do things that I don't want to do. That is great in clinical experience. Now, I need to do this in my business. See, when it's just you versus you, it's easier to think of someone else as the enemy. It's easy to be like, oh, I'm going to tell them no. They don't have my best interest at heart. Do I have my best interest at heart? I'm agreeing to continue to maintain, to do all of the things in my business, to build my business in a way that sometimes does not feel sustainable. I'm doing the same things that these other things are doing. When the priority is income or the function of the business and not the person, it's going to burn down. This is where medicine is heading. When there's profit over people, it's not sustainable. It's just not going to work for a long time. Eventually people will quit. You'll lose so much of your workforce. People lose motivation. I would lose motivation in my business if I continued on the path that I started on in 2022 and even half of 2023. I'm still working out the kinks, but I'm just so much more aware of it now. This concept of not having to earn rest, of taking leisure. What I've done is created a schedule that allows me to take vacation pretty much every month. It's expensive. It's not for the weary. But in creating that, I'm basically intentionally carving out a space that forces me to stop working, that forces me to relax, because there ain't no way I'm going on vacation and I'm taking work with me. I'm just not going to do it. I'm much more likely in a staycation, even if I've decided, I'm taking this week off, I'm much more likely to be at home working and doing things, cleaning the house, doing laundry, working on the business, creating content. Like, it's really hard to take a break in the setting where I'm a workaholic. It's not to make light of alcoholism. When you're recovering from alcoholism, you tell the people, like, stay out of their old environments. You don't want them to go back to the bar. You don't want them to hang out with the friends that helped promote their drinking in the first place. So my house is my workaholic place. I work a lot here. I remote. I do a lot of coaching from my house, especially this room. You guys see this background all the time. If I'm in here, I'm working. So I have created a lifestyle where I literally physically remove myself from this environment. That is the boundary that I have set for myself. Yes, it's expensive, and I really need to figure out how to take better breaks locally because it's going to be cost prohibitive. It's a work in progress. I am creating this life because, like I said, it's a better outcome for me. It's a better outcome for my patients. All of these things I discovered after I started doing them. It's if I am confident, then I will negotiate. It's actually the reverse. If you negotiate, you become confident. If you have boundaries, you fix your burnout. It's not you wait till you're burned out to have boundaries. Create them now. Create your plans now. Create your alternatives now. Start to figure out what is exhausting you and create your alternative to it. Have you ever asked yourself, what if it all works out? So many good ideas come from that space, but you can't have that moment if you have not created the structure for that to exist, the space, the time for that to exist. Anyway, I am in Portugal this week with my friends from college. By the time you hear this, I'll be in Portugal. 10-person girls trip. Everyone's around the same age. We're celebrating a milestone birthday. Yes, we're turning 25. And we're excited to do that. And part of that, like I said, I'm creating the structure for this type of lifestyle. Proud of me. Anyway, hopefully that wasn't too rambly. I felt a little rambly. That's what my brain says. That little voice in the back that always has the little doubts. I hope that was helpful. I hope that this allows you to recognize that you will not be able to create the space you will not be able to create space in order to decide what your boundaries are until after you've created the boundaries. So that's what I'm doing in my business. That's what I'm doing in clinic. That's what I have done that makes me more confident that I'm on the right path. Have a good week. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe to the podcast. And what I want you to do next is link us everywhere you can. Instagram at The Black Doctor. Just become part of our collective. I want you here. Thanks. Until next time. Bye.